Hey everybody, Brian here. Thank you once again for coming back to the channel. I'm just going to talk about the latest books I bought. The first half of the video, I'm going to talk about DC Comics, and then the second half, I'm going to talk about Marvel. So, here we go. So, I've actually started, and I haven't bought this for a while, trying to catch up on what's going on with Superman. So, The New World, Part 1, Action Comics, issue number 977. It was very strange. I'm really struggling with where Superman's at and what they're doing with Superman at the moment. I think the artwork was very good. I thought some of the story was okay, but I'm really at a bit of a loss with a lot of the DC Rebirth comics. I'll explain what I mean by that by saying that there's been such a, you know, with Convergence or Darkest Night or whatever, you know, all of these different sort of earth-shattering, changing, from Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm not sure who's who, who's what, where, you know, Infinite Crisis, and you know, there's been so many changes to the actual character of Superman that it's hard to know where the book is going or what it's all about. So I thought, well, I'll just grab Action Comics. That should sort of be a pretty and it was a decent story, but I just found it to be a bit pedestrian. I might keep going with that. Have you read Action Comics? What do you think? The Dark Knight Part 3, The Master Race, DK3, The Master Race. So I've been buying every issue of this since it's come out. I really love The Dark Knight Returns. I thought that was one of the best books that was ever that's been one of the best comics that's ever been put out. Clearly, yes, Zack Snyder has taken bits of that from Batman vs. Superman, but it's been done prior to that. A lot of the earlier sort of Batman incarnations, even to a degree Tim Burton's Batman, a very darker, very grimmer sort of character, have all taken liberties from this book or this sort of dichotomy of the Batman, the Joker, or whatever. So, and an older Batman sort of, you know, maybe looking at his last sort of journey. So a lot of people didn't like DK2, but I did. I'm a big fan of Frank Miller. If you watched my previous video about, and I might put a link to that here at this point, a previous video that I did was, my lifelong love of comics. So I've always really liked Frank Miller's work. I think his writing, yes, he is a strange man, and sure, some of it's decided, but he's an interesting writer to me. The DK3, The Master Race, I think has sort of started to outlive its welcome because there's no conclusion looking like there's going to be on the horizon. So the main story itself just seems to be dragging on and on. I mean, we're up to issue 8, whereas The Dark Knight was 4 issues, DK2 was 3. One of my favorite characters in the DC universe, or the DC Comics universe, is Nightwing. Big fan. Always been a big fan. I actually liked him before it was, you know, I'm old school anyway, man. So one of my favorite comic book characters growing up was Robin. That must say a lot about my personality, but the Dick Grayson Robin, the sidekick to Batman, who wasn't necessarily as dark and brooding. He was a bit more sort of upbeat and whatnot, and an acrobat as opposed to, and he was still a good detective, but he sort of, you know, found his sort of trap. So with the DC rebirth of Dick Grayson's Nightwing, still in Bloodhaven, etc., etc., one of the things that they've put in the latest series is something that I think it's being noted around, is that Damian Wayne is showing up. And to me, the two of them working together as a new almost Batman and Robin sort of thing works very, very, very well. I love the two characters together. The story recently that ran in issues 16, 17, and 18, which I got here, and The Prisoners of Pig. Now, that was a really weird story. Kudos to the writing crew for that. They've come up with a pretty strange and bizarre villain. Wasn't entirely too sort of sure about the story so much, but I do love these characters together. If you're reading Nightwing at the moment, tell me what you think. Do you like his sort of version? To be fair, I really just absolutely loved when Chuck Dixon was writing the book and Scott McDaniel was doing the artwork. I just got every issue of that. I absolutely loved that. That was when they got the character right. It was this beautiful blend of acrobatics, heroics, him trying to not be Batman, but, you know, I just loved it. I loved it. So that takes care of my my DC sort of roundup of all things. Moving on to Marvel Comics. Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 26. For those of you that have been reading this book, I haven't. I only picked up issue 25 for the first time in ages because, to be honest with you, One More Day and the sort of Astounding or the Superior Spider-Man really turned me off the comics. I was really just put off Spider-Man comics. I really just did not like the directions that a lot of these things were taking, and it's hard if you've got to continue to sort of create something time and time again. So I get the whole rebooting and things, and now with Peter Parker as almost like a Tony Stark, well, basically he is a Tony Stark. He's a multinational, superhero, well, sort of, conglomerate, sort of owning inventionist who travels the world now and does things. With the even though I don't necessarily like that turn for the character, to be fair, the writing's been very good, and the artwork is just as good. I mean, my God, Stuart Immone's artwork is always brilliant. I haven't necessarily liked the whole sort of Norman Osborn continuing to be the Marvel Universe's answer to pretty much any villain that they need at the time. It's time to start coming up with some new guys. Norman Osborn now shifting from body to body to body, meaning he could be anywhere at any time. It's just getting tiresome. New characters, new blood. But to be fair, it's a well-written story. I've been enjoying it so far. They brought back in Silver Sable, and I've just been enjoying the actual reads. I've really liked what they've been doing. We'll see how this all pans out. I'm not a big fan of him sort of, because this is what I mean by with things being changed with Secret Wars, etc. Does this mean Hawkeye and Mockingbird were never together because of what's happened? Fill me in, guys. I'm not entirely sure. So why Spider-Man and now, does this mean the New Avengers never happened with Luke Cage and Jessica Jones? And that, because that would be a shame. That was a really good read, but in that, Mockingbird was nearly killed. So I'm just trying to figure out where Hawkeye fits into all this. If he's basically been, he killed the Hulk and now they've changed him over. I'm not sure. Could use some guidance here, folks. X-Men Blue, I picked up, issue 1. While the artwork is absolutely brilliant, it reminds me a lot of a bit of maybe 1990s, 1980s X-Men with Arthur Adams and sort of Terry Austin sort of artwork. Some of the artwork on there, I think the cover might even looks like Terry. It looks like those two guys. I'm gonna be as blunt as I can be, guys. I despise the new X-Men. The idea that they've brought back earlier versions of themselves. No, I'm not even going to really go on about that. But no, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work as a story. And for them to be working for who, without giving up too much away, by the end, it was telegraphed. It was terrible. I'll go through why I don't like the characters for starters. Because number one, these guys have had their day. If you go back in time, the X-Men have had their day. Bobby, Warren, Hank, Jean, Scott, they've all had their day. It's time for them to create new X-Men. And for the actual... And I actually turned off in reading that X-Men story when the Beast actually thought it was a good idea. Maybe just by bringing them forward, or they would be reminded of what they used to be like and maybe change their ways. I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd actually heard of in a long time. And for a character like Hank McCoy to even attempt to do it, be he the Hank McCoy that we all know, or the Hank McCoy from the Age of Apocalypse, Hank McCoy, the evil Beast, I don't know and I don't care. And I'm sure that this is all going to play into what a lot of people are saying about Marvel not really trying to create new X-Men stories because they don't necessarily own the rights theatrically. So Fox would basically get a free, storyline that they could sort of exploit. Guys, there's 30 to 40 years of X-Men stuff that they're just going to be able to do. Obviously, they've tried to do Old Man Logan, and I think they did a pretty good job with that. Logan was very good. But this is the sort of stuff that I find really tedious in comics at the moment. That's not to say that I don't love Marvel and I don't like the X-Men, but this is to say that I'm just not a fan of where this stuff's going, and they're rehashing old villains. They're bringing up old villains that you've seen 1,001 times, and to me that just I don't understand what you're trying to do. Are you trying to bring back the old fans and show that we're still being faithful to it, or are you going to do what the X-Men did when it first started, which was be an edgy, out there, creative, sort of different voice to the standard superhero fare? Because at the moment, that's a pretty lover's guide to how the X-Men used to be and how it ain't anymore. So, yeah. I don't know if I'll pick up any more of those. You let me know what you think. Do you like it? The artwork was great. Some of the parts I actually did giggle. I did like the characters, but I find that the changes to the characters just don't work for me. Why the Beast would be a mystic when he's a man of science? Oh yes, we'll just give that a twist. It doesn't work, guys. I'm sorry. I find that to be really annoying. Either create a new character or stick to what it is that these characters were and have them then reflect on where they have now gone. One of the books that I did pick up that I really enjoyed was a book called The Squadron Supreme. Oddly enough, the very second issue, they did something pretty amazing. They killed Submariner, Prince Namor. Bam! Knocked his head off. Killed him, because they blame Namor for some of these sort of things that have happened in alternate dimensions, and the stories were this sort of really the kind of books that I like, where you jump through alternate dimensions and multiverses, and you're dealing with different sort of situations and scenarios, and you're bringing a team together. I love these sort of stories. The book itself sort of meandered for a while, and then surprisingly, I picked up issue 13, 14, and 15. And I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that's it. Journey's over. They just ended. They basically brought Namor back, sort of tried to reset everything that they'd done, and the Squadron pretty much just went their own way. The book wasn't selling well, obviously, so they've just wrapped it up. It's a shame, really, because I thought some of the really strongest writing and creative chances that were being taken at Marvel at the time were being done by this book. So, James Robinson, I think he's a great writer. So I was really enjoying that, and I'm sorry to see that end. We're going to do The Unworthy Thor. So I've picked up 4 and 5. Love it. Absolutely love it. Jason Aaron's writing is fantastic. The Thor comics that I've been reading have alternate sort of artists for some parts of the book. Beta Ray, there've been flashbacks, so Beta Ray Bill shows up. It's been fantastic. Coming back to my two favorite books at the moment from Marvel are The Silver Surfer, which again, issues 8 and 9. Every issue has just been a joy to read, and it's been fun. I just enjoy the fresh take on a character that's been pretty interesting, having him travel around with Dawn. And finally, my favorite book still from Marvel at the moment, I talked about this before, Marvel's Doctor Strange. Once again, Jason Aaron with Chris Bachalo. Hit me up when you know about the artwork, about this guy's name. This is, and it sort of bummed me out a little bit. The Blood and the Ether storyline wrapped up with issue 16 with the return of Dormammu. We all know I've come to bargain. And the artwork that he did, it was just stunning, just absolutely stunning. And they've wrapped up the series. I believe that sort of story arc. The problem I've got is that it just went bang. Dormammu shows up, big bad, and Doctor Strange basically beats him, and the book's over. So we've moved on to a different storyline by issue 17. And once again, they've taken this bizarre, different sort of trippy artwork style that I just absolutely adore. Who is the guy that did this? Fraser Irving. My God, it's one of the better books that Marvel are putting out right now. Check it out if you haven't read it or whatnot. So this is just my brief take on comics, my comics catch up. What are some more books that you like? Did you agree with me or not agree with me? I have been reading Sam Wilson, Captain America. The next time I do one of these, I'm going to give my thoughts on the Secret Empire and the diversity issues with Marvel. I'm not going to go into any of that right now. I do believe that that's something worth discussing, but it's already been discussed ad nauseum across the internet and across YouTube channels. My take on it is that diversity comics don't suck. It's what I've said about comics in general. It's the rebooting. It's the constant... People can't gain traction with stories. The Squadron Supreme, as I said, 15 issues, plug gets pulled. How are you supposed to gain any traction by it if you're not allowing books to grow and breathe and gather an audience and gather momentum and do things if you just keep... So that's the problem I've got, and this seems to happen all the time. There's events that happen that change everything. So I picked up, like I said, an issue of a book and didn't really know an issue of Spider-Man. Well, what's the story? How you know, it's hard to keep that. It's hard to keep your fans on board, Marvel. So I don't necessarily believe the diversity books suck. Although I have to admit, I did pick up an issue of the Superior A-Force, just out of curiosity, because I'm like, okay, what are they doing with the female characters? I did not think the writing was very strong in that. So, and I don't think that book's around anymore. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts on there, guys? Are you a Marvel fan? Are you a DC fan? What sort of books are you reading? What's in your pull list, or what do you have out there? Hit me up in the comments. Give me a like if you like the video. Tell me what you think. Are you comfortable with all this stuff? Do you like the new sort of things? What are your thoughts on the Secret Empire? What are your thoughts on DC's Rebirth? Let me know. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Cheers.